Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 9, the passing away of Bhishma Dev. This is text 47. Tushtuvor munaya hristha Krishnam tad bhuyanamabhi Hitaste Krishna hridaya Sasraman prayashu punah Tushtuvor munaya hristha Krishnam tad bhuyanamabhi Tataste Krishna hridaya Sasraman prayayupana. Please chant. Namabi Tataste Krishna hridaya Sasramana prayayupana.
Tushtuvor manayo Krishna.
Tushtuvor manayo Krishna.
Krishnam tad bhuyanamabhi. Tataste Krishna hridaya.
Tataste Krishna hridaya Sasraman prayayupana.
Tustvor manayo Krishna. Krishnam tad bhuyanamabhi. Tataste Krishna hridaya. Sasraman prayayupana.
Sasraman prayayupana. Tataste Krishna hridaya
Sasraman prayayupana.
Tushtuvor manayo hristha Krishnam tad bhuyanamabhi Tataste Krishna hridaya Sasraman prayayupana. Anybody else? Tushtuvo. Satisfied. Munaya. The great sages headed by Vyasadeva, etc. Krishna. All in a happy mood. Krishnam. Unto Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead. Tat. His. Guya. Confidential. Namabi. By his holy name. Tata. Thereafter. Te. They. Krishna Hridaya. Persons who always bear Lord Krishna in their hearts. Sva-ashraman. To their respective hermitages. Prayayu. Returned. Punaha. Again. All the great sages then glorified Lord Sri Krishna, who was present there by confidential Vedic hymns. Then all of them returned to their respective hermitages, bearing always Lord Krishna within their hearts. Please repeat. All the great sages
all the great sages,
then glorified Lord Sri Krishna, who was present there by confidential Vedic hymns. Then all of them returned to their respective hermitages, bearing always Lord Krishna within their hearts. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The devotees of the Lord are always in the heart of the Lord, and the Lord is always in the hearts of the devotees. That is the sweet relation between the Lord and his devotees. Due to unalloyed love and devotion for the Lord, the devotees always see him within themselves. And the Lord also, although he has nothing to do and nothing to aspire to, is always busy in attending to the welfare of his devotees. For the ordinary living beings, the law of nature is there for all actions and reactions. But he is always anxious to put his devotees on the right path. The devotees, therefore, are under the direct care of the Lord. And the Lord also voluntarily puts himself under the care of his devotees only. So all the sages headed by Vyasadeva were devotees of the Lord. And therefore they chanted the Vedic hymns after the funeral ceremony just to please the Lord, who was present there personally. All the Vedic hymns are chanted to please Lord Krishna. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 15:15. All the Vedas, Upanishads, Vedanta, and so on are seeking him only, and all hymns are for glorifying him only. The sages, therefore, performed the exact acts suitable for the purpose, and they happily departed for their respective hermitages. Om Jnanatimivandasya Gnanjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Kapadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanditam Tam Sujivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Param Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Cha Namam Vishnu Paraya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Sarasate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvasesha Shanyavadi Paschata Desatarine Panchakalpataru Vyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevata Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Thank you everybody for being here in this wonderful temple of the Lord that exists by Srila Prabhupada's mercy and is still open because of Mukhya's wonderful management, because I know many temples aren't able to be open. And thank you all for following the protocols of masks and social distancing. So, and I just beg everybody for your mercy. It's been a long time since I sat here to speak Srimad Bhagavatam. The first sentence in the purport is that the devotees of the Lord are always in the heart of the Lord. And the Lord is always in the hearts of the devotees. And that reminded me of a song we used to sing quite often 30 years ago. It's Narottam Das Thakur from Prarthana. It begins, Te baro karuna koro Vaishnava Gosai. But I'll read the translation. O Vaishnava Goswami, please be merciful to me now. There is no one except you who can purify the fallen souls. Where does anyone find such a merciful personality, by whose mere audience all sins go far away? After bathing in the waters of the sacred Ganges many times, one becomes purified. But just by the sight of you, the fallen souls are purified. This is your great power. The holy name delivers one who has committed an offense to Lord Hari. But if one commits an offense to you, there is no means of deliverance. Your heart is always the resting place of Lord Govinda, and Lord Govinda says, the Vaishnavas are in my heart. I desire the dust of your holy feet in every birth I may take. Please consider Narottam yours and be kind upon him. So these sages, when they were leaving the presence of Grandfather Bhishma just after his departure, oftentimes in the material world, of course, funerals and the time of departure are occasions for lamentation. And of course, everyone was very sorry to see Grandfather Bhishma go, but at the same time, he had spoken so eloquently and so wonderfully and lived so gloriously that when leaving, it's described that all the sages returned to their respective hermitages, bearing always Lord Krishna within their hearts, and they were glorifying the Lord by confidential Vedic hymns. So we heard yesterday from Akuti Prabhu, Sunday feast, so many different glories of the Vedas, the Vedic literature having instructions on every aspect of life, from medicine to military, so many things, architecture. So there's so many hymns in the Vedas, but we're advised not to, what is it Krishna told Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita? Don't be carried away by the flowery words of the Vedas in terms of thinking that, oh, I worship this demigod and get that temporary result. But that is a less intelligent approach. But we're told to simply worship Krishna and go back to Godhead. So I was remembering when I was thinking of them chanting the Vedic hymns, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a description that Krishna says, when my beloved reproaches me, when she scolds me, when my beloved reproaches me in a sulky mood, I forget the reverential hymns of the Vedas. So I was missing Yashoda Krishna because this is the first morning after Kartik. And all this month we've been reciting every day how, for those who are thinking of the Lord only in his majestic aspect of Narayan and Vaikuntha, the Lord tells them, no, I'm conquered and overwhelmed by the pure loving devotion of the Brijbasis, my mother, my cowherd boyfriends. I get on their shoulders and they take me for a ride, or they get on my shoulders and make me carry them. So Krishna's intimate pastimes are the most attractive. I don't know if some of you know Bhakta Bob. He comes here and he Bhakta Bob. He periodically sends me little text messages to tell me when something is happening with the Beatles albums or something like that. He's a great fan of George Harrison. So just a day or two ago, I got a message with a picture of a new record that's come out. It was just like 2 days ago, the 50th anniversary of the release of the record, My Sweet Lord. And of course, I went back to my own where I was 50 years ago, and right around this time, 50 years ago, I was actually heading into a nervous breakdown. It was a big deal. I was having a very hard time figuring out how to be in the world. And I think it was right around at Christmas time, I went to visit my sister. And this new record came on the radio. And we were not a religious family. We never talked about God. I went to church with my friends. It was right next door. I did all these things, sang in the choir, but we never talked about God. My parents both of them had too much from their parents. But when I was at my sister's house, the record came on and the lyrics were there, and she smiled at me and she said, "Isn't it funny how someone so rich and famous is singing about God?" And it really went in my heart. And of course, that record, he's singing, "I really want to see you, I really want to be with you. It takes so long, but I really want that," and it made us all long. And he puts Jesus in there so all the Christian people feel happy, but he also has the Hare Krishna mantra. And how many millions of people became introduced to Hare Krishna through that album. So I was appreciating, and like we heard the other day in class, George Harrison had gotten the Happening album that Prabhupada made in 26 Second Avenue, that Alan Kalman, somehow they found this record studio man, and he was attracted. He was putting out different people singing and talking, so he had Srila Prabhupada and the devotees come to his studio. They recorded chanting Hare Krishna, and then Prabhupada spoke, and most devotees that I know, it's like you heard this so many times, anyone can take part in the chanting, even a child can take part, or even a dog, it takes you up beyond the spiritual, mental platform, not the spiritual, beyond, how does it go? Beyond the mundane level, but he lists several, like, physical, mental, emotional, something like that. It takes directly to the spiritual platform. If you heard it, you'd be able to finish the sentences. But, so who knew that this very small record company would put out a record that would go across the ocean, be heard by one of the most powerful, popular band in the world, and that one of them band members would take it seriously. And he and John Lennon, I think in that book that Did Young and Distribute So Profusely, Chant and Be Happy, they tell how they just heard this album and then they started chanting. Sometimes I think he and John Lennon, they were in a boat somewhere and they chanted for how many hours? So many hours they were just chanting. Yeah. And so then so many people who can understand, but Krishna is working through the material nature, finding some receptive soul. Oh, you have this ability, then use it in this way. You have some fame, then use it in that way. And bring people under the shelter of Krishna. So, due to unalloyed love and devotion for the Lord, the devotees always see him within themselves, and the Lord also, although he has nothing to do and nothing to aspire to, is always busy in attending to the welfare of devotees, his devotees. For the ordinary living beings, the law of nature is there for all actions and reactions, but he is always anxious to put his devotees on the right path. So, Narayani Prabhu, when she gave class, every reference that she has, she knows the chapter, the verse, everything. I have people say, "Oh, good memory," but I may be able to remember phrases and I may be able to remember verses, but I don't know the chapter and verse number. But I was just reading or hearing the other day about how Krishna actually is all the actions and he is all the reactions. And yet he's aloof from them. So, but nothing can exist that's not his energy. He sets the whole thing into action, not directly, but through Lord Brahma, Shambhu, glancing over the material, the Mahatattva, and putting all the living souls in that have been waiting in limbo, kind of, while he sleeps. and then he wakes and breathes out. Oh, what was I reading this morning? In third canto, I'm reading in chapter 20. I took a picture of the verse I was reading. I guess I can read it from here. But it just struck me. Let's see. It was Shonaka, it was the discussion between Maitreya and Vidura. So Shonaka's inquiring, and he said, there must have been many narrations of the spotless pastimes of the Lord. The hearing of such narrations is exactly like bathing in the water of the Ganges, for it can free one from all sinful reactions. So, this purport begins, the water of the Ganges is purified because it pours forth from the lotus feet of the Lord. Similarly, Bhagavad Gita is as good as the water of the Ganges because it is spoken from the mouth of the Supreme Lord. So it is with any topic on the pastimes of the Lord or the characteristics of his transcendental activities. The Lord is absolute. There is no difference between his words, his perspiration, or his pastimes. And it's like, sometimes you're just reading and you think this one sentence, if I could just broadcast it to the world, how incredible are Srila Prabhupada's books. Usually you think of the water of the Ganges when he kicks through, Lord Vamanadev kicks through the covering of the universe and then the Ganges comes down. So, but Prabhupada is now calling it his perspiration, It's just too sweet. So the devotees are under the direct care of the Lord, and the Lord also voluntarily puts himself under the care of his devotees only. One of the talks I heard recently was on Prabhupada's disappearance day. His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj was remembering and bringing so vividly forth what it was like to be with Srila Prabhupada in Vrindavan during those last days. And he specifically focused on the Prabhupada when he saw his Lokanath Maharaj and the Padayatra. And he said, I want to go. I want to go on the bullock cart ride. And so Lokanath Maharaj was so excited and making all arrangements, and other devotees were, yes, let's do, because Srila Prabhupada wants. But the devotees who were taking personal care of Srila Prabhupada knew how frail his body was. He couldn't even turn by himself in the bed. And there, even if we put mattresses on the cart, it's so rough road. You'll be jostled. I mean, and the doctor, he was just skin and bones. So they were very much not wanting Prabhupada to do this. And like Tamal Krishna Maharaj was one of the personal servants, and he said, Srila Prabhupada, if anybody wants you to travel, I do. But why does it have to be tomorrow? Can't we wait until you get a little strength back, and then we'll take you on bullock cart wherever you want to go, all around. So there were these two camps, and Giriraj Swami was describing how he said, I had people that I looked up to, senior to me in both camps. I was sympathetic to both, but they were so strongly opposed to one another. One was like, why are you thinking you're going to do something different than the spiritual master is telling you to do? And the other group was like, you want to kill Srila Prabhupada. I mean, it was very, very intense. He told it with so much detail, and he was there. So you felt really what it must have been like. And he said, then when Prabhupada, and then there were two things, something that had happened earlier, where he hadn't been eating or drinking. And then Upendra, Prabhu, who was his servant, said, Srila Prabhupada, you have to drink. And Prabhupada said, it was like, okay, you want me to live. Or you decide. Prabhupada said, you decide. And the devotees went, is he actually saying that we have a voice in this? And they understood that he was giving them, Krishna has given me the choice. So I'm not sure time-wise which, but there were two different instances where Prabhupada basically said, if the devotees want me to stay, then I'll stay. So he asked for something to drink the one time, or some strawberries or something. And the other time, also they talked to Bhagatji, and Bhagatji understood that he also said, no, you shouldn't go in the bullock cart like that. So two different times Prabhupada succumbed to the will of the devotees. All right, if I shouldn't put you in so much anxiety, because Tamal and maybe Bhavananda Prabhu, whoever there, you're making us crazy. He said, I don't mean to put you in so much, I won't go. And he turned to Bhagatji and see how much they love me. And then, when they said, you're making us mad with love for you, that is my duty. But Giriraj Swami was telling that he himself, he didn't know quite how to but then when Prabhupada left, he thought now the warring camps, they'll let it go because it's over. And he said, but they didn't. It's still going on. And the irony is, practically with any of these controversial topics that come up, if you actually talk to a person that's on one side or another, it's because of their love for Srila Prabhupada that they feel so strongly the way they do. And still, it's at odds. But he said for him, it was resolved when, after Prabhupada left, and like maybe the day or so, he was just sitting in Prabhupada's room behind the bed, and there was a bookcase there. He was chanting. But then he took one book, and where he opened it to, it was the pastime of Yashoda Damodar. And the whole thing was Krishna putting himself under the care of his mother, allowing himself to be bound. Why? Because of her intense love. So that, for him, it settled the matter. But I did think it was interesting that he said, I thought that the dispute would end, but it never did, and it still goes on. So, Hare Krishna. I know that sometimes Prabhupada told, even in the spiritual world, there are different camps. There's Radharani's group that wants to please Krishna, and sometimes they're contrary in their ways. And Chandravali's group, they're more submissive because that's her nature. And then there are the Vaikuntha Vasis, so many different ways of loving Krishna. Grandfather Bhishma, we've heard many people speaking about how is it that he could be on the opposite side in the battle and still be a Mahajan? How could he watch Draupadi attempted to be disrobed and still be a Mahajan? All these things, they're inconceivable. But Grandfather Bhishma, we've also heard, was in the mood that it was chivalrous mood, that he wanted to see Krishna coming towards him in anger with the wheel raised and the blood apparently on Krishna's body from his own arrows. He said to break in order to keep my promise that I'll either kill Arjuna today or Krishna will have to pick up a weapon, in order to keep my promise, he had to break his own. So that's love. Krishna allows himself to be bound and controlled by the love of his devotees. So all the sages headed by Vyasadeva were devotees of the Lord, and therefore they chanted the Vedic hymns after the funeral ceremony just to please the Lord, who was present there personally. All the Vedic hymns are chanted to please Lord Krishna. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 15:15. So 15:15, if you know it, we can say together, Sarvasya chaham hridishanidishto matak smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedaischa saveraham eva vedyo vedanta krit veda vid eva chaham. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. So he's in everyone's heart, and when we go through our day, there was something in the purport that can I find it? It was a different. The last sentence of the same purport about Krishna being non-different from his perspiration. If we can dovetail all our activities in relationship with Krishna, then we do not stand on the material platform, but always on the spiritual platform. So just like, there's so many flowers in the material world, so many different kinds of trees, but some of them bear flowers, and some of the flowers come to the temple and Madhumati. You get to string them into garlands for the Lord's pleasure. All our different activities can be used in Krishna's service. And so many varieties. Even the scientists, Prabhupada would tell his devotee scientists, try to speak the language. You know the language that scientists understand. So you present Krishna consciousness to that group. And now Bhaktivedanta Institute has purchased I've heard, quite a mansion-type house in Gainesville, so they can host seminars with devotee scientists from all over the world. And like that consciousness in science thing they did a year or two ago, invite so many students to come in here so that people get the idea how to understand consciousness as something different from what we're used to dealing with, the three dimensions of what we can see, hear, touch, and smell, and so on. So I'll stop and see if anybody has comments, questions, or additions. Yes, Prabhu. There'll be a microphone coming so that devotees at home can hear.
Thank you, Mataji, for a very nice class. Question I have, and there's no right and wrong answer for this one. Just put yourself, in a situation, or let me put myself in a situation where, I know I'm going to die tomorrow or day after tomorrow. And I have one wish that I want to fulfill. My relatives are, my kids, my family is around. They don't want, they know that if I take that wish, it's gonna expedite my journey to the end. What I would do, or my question is, what you would have done? And as I said, there's no right or wrong answer, but what's your opinion? And then I have a following question too.
You mean if we were in Grandfather Bhishma's place? Or
I mean, if not, the
if
same.
we knew we were going to die soon.
Yeah, if you would have been in that situation, what you would have done, what you would wanted to do.
I have a friend who always says that if you have not chanted your 16 rounds and then, like say you get in a car accident, that's not a good thing. But if you've chanted all your rounds and you're out doing something, it's a good day to die. I think it was a line from a movie she'd seen. It would be a good day to die. Yeah, you want to make sure you do what we promised to do. Um, I'm not a great soul, so I don't know, but I think if we try to give Krishna when we can, and we try to remember Krishna and serve the devotees, that's what I would hope for. You said you had
So
another
which
question.
one would you have picked up? You wanted to go for a Govardhan ride, or you wanted to
those
stay
things. Oh,
for your friends and and your disciples?
That place you're
That
putting.
yeah.
Oh no, that's
Tough call. You can't decide.
it just on such a different level. I can't even imagine relating to. But if I had been in that group among the devotees there, I would have opted to please stay. Don't go on the ride.
So sorry. Please the devotees and not fulfill your wish. That's what you said. So please devotees and not fulfill your last wish. That's what you said.
No, I'm not putting myself in the place of
So my
no,
question.
but I see. Well, Prabhupada, my understanding is pleasing the devotees was his decision based on their love. His whole modus operandi. Oh, I know one thing that happened. A doctor came to him. Maybe he was in Bombay. It was the last few months. A doctor had come to him and said, Srila Prabhupada. Oh, at that time, already a few murtis had been established. Prabhupada murtis and sent to temples. And so devotees would come into the temple, even non-devotees, but friendly people, and touch the feet of the murti. So the Kaviraj heard about this and he was alarmed because Prabhupada's health was already frail. And he went to Srila Prabhupada. I think it was a godbrother. It was a very exalted Vaishnava, but he came and he said, don't you understand? He said, if these murtis are established now while you're still here, it's not different from you. If they touch your feet of the murti, all of the sinful reactions of those people will come to you. And he was urging Srila Prabhupada not to do it. And Prabhupada said, don't you understand why I have come? That's my purpose. And so then the godbrother didn't say anything after that. Is that all right? I mean, yeah.
I still did not understand what you would have done. What? I mean, just this way or this way?
I think asking me to put myself in Prabhupada's shoes is just a little more than I can do. Sorry. I just have to say I'll tell you in a few million
fine.
lifetimes.
Yeah, that's fine. And the following question is, you know, what you have known Prabhupada, just from your perspective of Prabhupada, what he wanted to do in that situation. I don't know what was the real situation, what exactly we did, or his disciple did, but what he would have done if he could decide and say, okay, I want to do this.
Well, I think what he would have done is what he did do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your nice class, Vegavati. It's nice
Thank
to
you
hear.
for your blessing.
I was thinking, you mentioned about Giriraj Maharaj and how it was difficult for him to, like he was hearing both the sides, So I was just thinking about Maharaj, that how it must have been so hard for him for the person who he is. I was remembering that we were at a Govardhan retreat, and it was a japa retreat, that one. And so Giriraj Maharaj was talking about a situation that he faced and what he decided. He said that during japa, some devotees say that you put earplugs,
Right.
so then you can hear
Your own voice.
hear the chanting very
Right.
nicely.
Right.
And some devotees, then he saw the other devotees were saying, no, you're supposed to not put earplugs, but you're supposed to hear from your mouth into going to your ears. In other words, don't put earplugs. If you're talking, the sound vibration is meant to go from here to here.
Right.
And so Maharaj was kind of appreciating both the thinking.
Right.
And so he said, then I decided I'll put one earplug. So just appreciating. Giriraj Maharaj is like, I was thinking that little thing, he was like, so can't imagine what he was going through, seeing this situation with Srila Prabhupada. So,
Right.
but yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Right. Radha Charan.
Thank you. Beautiful class. My question is, when you heard My Sweet Lord, you were in a horrible place in your life. Was that an epiphany moment for you? Did that bring you back? You said you were a few years ago you were suicidal.
Yeah.
And
Well,
you heard.
not exactly suicidal, but
Well, you said you. I thought you
a
said
nervous
that.
breakdown.
Well, you were very depressed.
Yes, I was.
But anyway, was that an epiphany moment for you when you heard that? My
It
Sweet
wasn't.
Lord?
I mean, yes, it was an epiphany. It was part of a long chain of epiphanies. It took a couple years before I actually was pushed into such extreme suffering that when I met a devotee, I was able to. I heard this example early on, and some of you may have heard it. That what was it? A person came to a teacher, and he said, "How can I take this up seriously?" And the teacher didn't say anything. He just took him down to the river nearby, pushed him in the water, and kept him there. And then the man, he was about to drown. And the teacher said, when you want spiritual knowledge, or when you want the holy name as badly as you wanted that breath of air, then you will be able to, chant sincerely. So it took some doing to get me to the point where I would be able to hear and not want to ever go back to material world.
I'm sorry, I remembered incorrectly. You said nervous breakdown. You didn't say suicide.
Right. Divyanka.
I just remember when All Things Must Pass came out, and me and my brother were crying because the Beatles broke up, right? And we were like, now it's the end of the world.
Right,
We were so mad at them. How
Right.
could they break up? They're the only light in our life. And we had heard Hare Krishna from Elementary Penguins singing Hare Krishna. And I remember we asked our babysitter, what is that? And she explained to us, those guys on the street, chanting the bald heads, blah, blah. That was the first. But when we got All Things Must Pass with the liner notes, chanting the names of the Lord and you'll be free, the art of dying, song after song. And these were all, he had the band. He had Clapton and Klaus Bormann and all those guys, Nicky Hopkins, those guys were way better band than the Beatles. And George had already written all those songs, and Paul McCartney snuffed them. He'd give them one song per album, and so he had all that stuff. And boom, when that came out, we played that records, it was 3 albums, played that thing until it was just ruined, because we just learned over and over and over. And I remember singing, along with it.
Right.
And it just changed our lives.
Actually, that makes me think of 2 things. First, the point where Paul McCartney just, not because Paul and John were older, and George was a couple years younger when they started. And these are like teenage boys, 15, 16, 14. And because they kept that impression, he's not the musician, not the songwriter, and then it turns out he's actually amazing. Isn't that a little like us? I've been here longer. I know more. You all just came, 15 years ago, and I've been doing this for 40-some years. But there's some people last night I was at home, but I was hearing Nadia's kirtan, and I was like, oh my God, it's like amazing. But that's our tendency too. We're not any better, that we can think of ourselves in a mundane way. But the other thing you made me think of was when I got that album, I was given All Things Must Pass, and also reading. And I went to visit my father, and I was reading to him, isn't it a pity, isn't it a shame that not too many people can see we're all the same? But we're not all the same. He said, and he was right, and George was also right, because we are an eternal soul. And that's vision in the mode of goodness, one undivided spiritual soul wherever. But also there's Varnashram, there's the educated people, there's Shudras, there's merchants. So
it's amazing the power that, because of Shamasundar's friendship with him and because of his connection with Prabhupada, he had potency. And it was like recently on Sankirtan, I've been saying to guys, that are older and can appreciate the Beatles, I'd say, what today is? Because especially when it's the 50th anniversary of the release of All Things. And these people are like, give me that. And we've been using the Beatles ever since I joined the movement. Right. We go out on Sankirtan and we had little cards printed up that said Apple Records on it, right? Uh-huh. Words from Apple, right from the Krishna book, the little apple peel coming off. Right. And we went and we did the 74 tour with George. We'd go right inside with boxes of trilogies, and he's up there with Dylan and, Leon Russell and everybody, they all liked Krishna. Right. And we were just like, we were part of the thing, And I'm just to this day out in Sankirtan, I pull out a Beatles book and people want it. It's just Krishna's mercy. It was Krishna's plan, to preach. But.
And he also was in such a position that everywhere he went, and here were the devotees, and they were like, oh, you should meet our Prabhupada. We were, over him. It was a relief to him that and Prabhupada, the way he treated, these are good boys. They're nice boys.
Yeah. How old were you, Prabhu? You said you were babysitter. How old?
I was 14. My brother was 16. Changed my life. There's some comments here in chat. Mahesh Pandey. Ganga Jal has bacteria called phasis, which kill harmful bacteria in our bodies. So if we have faith, we can just drink Ganga Jal and be cured from corona.
Oh, cool. If we have faith.
You call that faith, I call that ignorance.
No, but I've actually heard, of course.
Good luck with that. Yeah. Good luck drinking the Ganga or anything over there right now.
I drank it for a year and 5 months.
When I first went to India, I jumped in the Ganga and I just started drinking. And then I almost died. And my dad said, well, what happened? I said, well, I drank the Ganges. And he said, well, you idiot, of course you're going to die. But I didn't die, I lived. Here's another one. Mahavishnu Priya Devi Dasi. Very sweet class. Thank you, Prabhu. Srila Prabhupada was always intent upon giving Krishna consciousness to others at every moment. He was thinking of delivering lost souls. With his dying breath, he was instructing others how to spread this movement more. Oh, that's a nice comment.
Nice. That reminds me, there was a Satsrup Maharaj poem about why Prabhupada came to New York. Why did he choose that place? And in the poem he said, because so many souls were falling off from here, and it seemed a good place to catch them. Okay, thank you so much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.